Hello, Eric from AG Racing Central here. So Flashout 3 is finally here for consoles. It's been out on PC for a while, but now it's released on all three major console platforms. I've spent a couple of hours with the game and I'm ready to give you my first impressions of it, which is quite good actually. Flashout 3 is a combat-focused anti-gravity racer. It's definitely inspired by Wipeout, maybe F-Zero too, but I'd say mostly Wipeout. The controls are relatively straightforward affair. You steer left and right, there's no pitching in this game, but you have air brakes and you can also do barrel rolls, just like in the Wipeout games. There's no online component, but split screen is actually available. You'll probably spend most of your time with the campaign, the story mode in this game, and the unique aspect here is that you choose between two different characters, Bee and Silas. They each have their own backstory and one unique weapon. By the end of the day though, it doesn't really matter which character you choose, there's really no difference except for the unique weapon, of course. You can see your character stand at the podium after each event. You progress through the campaign via a grid system, and each grid has several different events that you complete after each other. The progression is saved mid-event, so to speak, but there's no way to replay a certain race. You have to restart the entire event in that case. The different events are time trials, quite self-explanatory, and you also have your regular combat races. You unlock new ships as you progress through the campaign, and one unique touch here is that each ship has several different variants. It's almost like the teams in the Wipeout 2048 campaign. Their colors and stats differ slightly, so you can pick the one that suits your playstyle. And another important attribute here is your ship's energy. All the different weapons and so on you can equip your ship with comes with a certain energy cost. You have your attack attachments, used to damage opponents in front of you. Counter, used to damage opponents behind you, or it could be a shield also, for example, and utility, which does something a bit more unique. Each of them take up a certain amount of energy, and the more energy you have on your ship, the more powerful weapons you can equip. So energy is just as important than any of the other ship stats. That was the game in a nutshell, so what are my impressions so far? The game gives off a slightly unpolished feel, but it is developed by an indie developer after all, so you can't compare it to Wipeout Omega Collection, for example, that has a budget on a totally different level. The track design is okay, nothing really stands out, but speed pads are placed at key locations, so track memorization is very important. And I also think the surroundings around the tracks looks really great. Maybe not super high def, but great nonetheless. The regular races though, which is sort of the main bulk of the campaign, they can definitely feel like a bullet hell rather than an actual race with all the weapons and rockets spewing around all over the place. And even though you can dish out damage in front of you, there's no real way to defend yourself, and things can definitely feel a bit random by the end. If you get blown up at an inappropriate time, say just before the finish line, it can be the difference between coming first in a race or in last place. So one tactic I actually used myself was to purposely blow myself up when one lap was left in the race, and then I had full health for the last lap, increasing my chances of catching up with the opponents that overtook me after I blew up myself. And this feels a bit like maybe not what the developers intended. There's definitely some skill involved when using the weapons though. There's a cooldown system. If you use your weapon too much, they will overheat and you can't use them for a while. And I got the feeling that if you didn't reach the overheat state, the weapons got back online faster than if you overheated them. So that's definitely something that you should keep track of. And also there's definitely skill involved when aiming the weapons. The aiming felt quite precise actually. One of the game's biggest problems in my opinion though is that you choose a ship and a loadout before each grid, meaning that you have to have a certain ship with a certain weapon loadout for several different types of races. But certain ships and certain weapon kits are definitely more suited for a certain type of event. For example, in an eliminator event, I would gladly have 3 offensive attack type weapons to have any chance to reach the podium, but I would gladly trade 1 or 2 of those weapons for a turbo in a single race, for example. And this leads you to choosing a certain all-round loadout that will fit any type of race, and it doesn't really encourage you to experiment with the different types of weapons and gadgets that are available. So that's a bit unfortunate. There are several things that I like though. The ship design is really great. Not that the ships look fantastic or are like super beautiful or anything like that, but they definitely have their own style. Even if Flashout 3 is heavily inspired by Wipeout, they have certainly picked their own path when it comes to the art style. Music taste is of course very subjective, but I think the Music in this game is definitely varied, and they have some really catchy tracks. I actually reached out to the developer called Jujubee on their official YouTube page, and they were kind enough to answer just within the hour. And they said that content creators are free to use the music in Flashout 3 when making content about the game, which is really nice of them. They seem like a really nice bunch of people overall. They answered my comment very quickly. And by the end of the day, I also like the loadout system. There are several weapons and gadgets I haven't unlocked yet that I'm really looking forward to trying out. I can for sure see myself replaying this game, say on a harder difficulty, and use other ships and another loadout just for the fun of it. That concludes my first impressions of Flashout 3. I will return in the near future with a complete review of this game. Please let me know in the comments what you think of Flashout 3. And thank you so much for watching. This is Eric from AU Racing Central, and I'll see you in the next video.